I was deep in my overdraft and I was stressed and I felt hopeless. Then I began to ask myself, is programming doomed? But how did I get here? I was a junior full stack software engineer at a startup in London. I was earning 33k a year and I was fully remote. Even though I was a junior in title, I was more than that in action. When things went wrong, I was the one that they called. 2 years into this job, my colleagues and I were being paid later and later in the month. Management was just chalking this up to accounting errors. Clearly, it was cash flow problems. So I decided to start searching for a job. This was a good opportunity to level up from junior to mid-level. I sent out hundreds of applications and got rejected. With my bank account dwindling and my landlord breaking down my door, I started to feel hopeless. I wasn't getting any response, and every time I looked on LinkedIn, I would see that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants applying for the same role as I was. And I started to ask myself, is programming doomed? One day, a recruiter reached out to me and he decided to drop some advice. He said that I needed to add more keywords to my CV, like microservices and SaaS, and specify my tech stack a little bit more. He explained to me that companies use a sort of filtering system that filters out any CVs that don't include a certain set of keywords. Obviously it's more complicated than that, but he dumbed it down for me. He also explained I should write about the impact I had instead of just explaining what I did at the company. Now I felt a little bit flushed when he said all of these things because they seem basic, but I just didn't notice them. And it's hard to admit that you might be doing something wrong. So I could have just decided to disregard this advice. After all, I was seeing a bunch of posts on Reddit saying that the market is just bad right now, and I could just blame that as the reason why I'm not getting a job. Then I remembered something I heard from chess world champion Garry Kasparov. If you want to improve at something, then you have to be brutally honest with yourself. It's easy to say, oh, my opponent looked at me funny, so I lost concentration and I made a blunder. It's hard to say, I didn't practice enough, or I didn't prepare. Your first conclusion should be that there's a skill issue, not that the market is bad. After following the recruiter's advice and tweaking my CV, I started to get more calls. In fact, I got a call from a recruiter that introduced me to a company that I'm gonna call Bullet Inc. You'll see why later. It seemed like the dream role. The person that interviewed me was really nice and honest. She was upfront about the fact that they were looking for someone new. She explained that the company had just introduced a mandatory 4 days a week in the office. Now some of their employees were living outside of London, so they started to quit. I thought this was fair enough, and I didn't have a problem with going into the office 4 days a week. Actually I did, but I was really desperate. They gave me a really cool take-home test though, about asynchronous payments. More on these guys later. I didn't really have a problem with leak code style questions or pair programming questions. But if you want me to make a video with some tips and advice about that, let me know. On the other hand though, I did have a problem with systems design interviews. This was sort of the thing that was preventing me from leveling up. At this point, I'd made it through 3 interviews and failed at the systems design stage. What the hell is a systems design interview anyway? Well, it's an interview stage where you usually be asked how to design a really well-known system. For example, Spotify. The types of questions you'll be asked relate to scalability. How will the system perform under heavy load? How can it be designed to handle growth? Reliability. How will the system handle failures? How can it be designed to be resilient? Efficiency. How can the system make efficient use of resources such as CPU, memory, and network bandwidth? Maintainability. How can the system be designed to be easy to maintain and update? I'm going to link some of the resources I used to pass these interviews down below. I hope they help you. After I got through this hurdle, I finally managed to land 3 offers at 3 different companies, and they competed, and I ended up getting a 60k base salary. After some months, I got a call from the same recruiter that introduced me to Bullet Inc. to ask if I was still on the market. I took the opportunity to ask about Bullet Inc. and why they rejected me, or they didn't get back to me. It turns out that they didn't reject you. What ended up happening was that their senior software engineers started quitting, so they had to freeze hiring, and their stock tanked, he said to me. Like I was saying, Bullet dodged. Sometimes you'll get rejected for good reasons. Then it's time to evaluate yourself. Sometimes it'll be for bad reasons. There's nothing you can do about those, but you should always look to improve yourself. And sometimes, like in the case of Bullet Inc., it just wasn't meant to be. So no, I don't think programming is dead. I think that first, we should be doing some introspection and asking ourselves, could I be the one that's doing something wrong? And then, and only then, should we look at external factors, like the market or anything else. Are you going through something similar right now? Let me know in the comments. If you found any value in this video, please consider subscribing and leaving me a like. If you've just started at your new job, consider checking out this video.